Hello, I'm Enzo, and today I'll be playing the Riftbreaker. Alright, first of all, you see, I updated my recording software right before I played this, and I forgot that it kind of kills the first recording. Thankfully, I split my recordings, but still, I literally lost the first 30 minutes of footage. That is absolutely tragic. So I'll try to explain everything I did at the beginning now that I actually understand it. The Riftbreaker is a tower defense / strategy game. It is super awesome. And one of the biggest differences in this game is that the waves of enemies are absolutely massive. It's actually unbelievable, but that's what makes it so much fun. This is also another one of the games that was given to me to review for free. This is why I do need to look at games more often, because I would absolutely buy this on my own for myself. It is so much fun. Another funny thing is how I was actually playing Mindustry around the time I actually got the email offering me this game, which is pretty funny timing, considering Mindustry is, well, similar at least. You know, it is a tower defense / strategy / factory game. Alright, since I am missing my first 30 minutes of this game, there is quite a bit to explain. In the Riftbreaker, you play as Ashley. Well, she's the woman inside the mech. The mech is called Mr. Riggs, which is pretty funny, and we're on the planet Galatea 37. Our entire goal is to secure this planet and build a rift back to Earth so humans can colonize this planet. Makes quite a bit of sense. Since I am just starting out, obviously I don't know too much about this game or what to do, but I am following the main mission and I'm doing as much research as I can before I get on with anything else. Our two main and most important resources are carbonium and ironium. I'll need these two resources throughout the entire game, considering they make literally everything. All the other resources will be useful later on and for different higher tier buildings and stuff like that. But I found out you can research pretty much everything with just the first two resources. Cause I will say, I did stay back in this first map and do a ton of research instead of actually heading out and exploring other places like I should have at the start. But that is very much how I play Mindustry. You know, better safe than sorry. I want to be as prepared as possible. So you can probably see my little base setup here. I have quite a few mines to collect the carbonium and ironium. The little lines on the floor are all of my power lines, which, yes, they can be destroyed by enemies, and I have some turrets around the place. There's also all sorts of power generators and storage that I have there as well. Now, the thing that really makes the Riftbreaker so unique, well, besides the insane amount of enemies, is the fact it does all of the tower defense stuff a little bit differently. You see, in most tower defense games, you can place as many turrets as you want, no matter what. But in here, my turret placement is actually a tiny bit limited. You see in the top right, the second column, that's actually my AI cores. I actually have to build a certain building that will let me build more turrets. As you can probably expect, the AI building takes up a ton of power, so you have to build more generators if you want more turrets. I mean, it makes sense. And yes, this is one of those games where if you need more of something, you literally just have to build more. More power, more generators. More resources, more mines. That's it. For power, there are several cool sources, but for now, my options are solar power, wind power, and carbonium. So instead of mining the carbonium, I can place a generator on the resource patch, and it will burn it as fuel instead. Another super cool thing about this game is in the bottom right, you can actually see the various weather events that happen. Okay, well, Ashley or Mr. Riggs will kind of announce what's going to happen, but you can see in the bottom right, like, what it's affecting. So my wind is 100% efficient, but my solar is off because, well, it's nighttime. I haven't even mentioned how beautiful this game looks, by the way. I had to reduce the settings a tiny bit because my computer wasn't recording right. At least that's how it looked. Still, it's because I updated my software, that's why the first clip is missing. And instead of being like a static tower defense game where I just have to build up my defenses in one small area, I can actually go out exploring and kill tons of enemies all around this map, which I really love. Clearing out enemies is so much fun. On top of that, I can get collectibles like that egg thing I got, That egg thing actually contained a bunch of cobalt, which is a very important building resource. I can't actually mine that in this area. I'll need to go to a different place to actually get more, but that'll be later on. On top of that, I got a shotgun as a drop from one of the enemies, and I did research the shotgun a little bit later on, but the one I got is super unique. It has, like a special bonus on it, and that bonus is actually lifesteal, which is broken, by the way. I heal so much with that thing, it's not even funny. So as you can probably tell, I'm having tons of fun playing it already. I've just barely gotten into the game. I am playing the campaign. Naturally, it's on normal difficulty. I was gonna try easy, but I was like, you know what? I have some experience in games like this. I might as well try normal. And yeah, it's super easy. But that's a good thing. I need to learn how to play this first. It's also because I'm on an easier difficulty that I'm just running around and exploring stuff. I found this larger egg thingy, and these larger ones are pretty interesting. Whenever you activate them, it summons just like unthinkable amounts of enemies to your position. As you can probably guess, I was not prepared for this in the slightest. But yeah, I got overwhelmed pretty fast, to say the least. And my defenses didn't really help too much with this either, since, I only had the starting turrets. So, if I were smart, I should actually start building up, my defenses, my base, getting more resources, doing more research. But hey, I'm having fun, and that's all that really matters. Thankfully, even if you happen to die, you'll probably drop some of your gear, but it's not the end of the world. As long as your main core is still alive, you can respawn. Which, thankfully it is, so I can get back into battle. This is definitely not the greatest base loadout, but again, this is my first time playing the Riftbreaker. But it is pretty crazy I managed to survive this attack in the first place. I thought for sure these guys were gonna wipe out my base. It's also very nice that the repair tool can be used in a large radius. That makes fixing up the base so much easier. And it doesn't cost like that much to repair buildings. Again, this is just a learning experience. My current main goal is to build the Rift Station. This is like the, end game goal. And I was super confused at first because I was wondering why I'm building this end game thing so early on. But apparently it needs all sorts of crazy different resources to actually activate it. I guess that makes a lot of sense. This map does look quite large, and well, this main one is, but there are smaller maps that I'll unlock later. I can either make a small base there, or just go there for a tiny bit and have nothing to defend. The more permanent bases in other levels are called outposts, and those are what I'll be building to get all the other resources I need, and then they get transported back here. I haven't actually gotten that far in. I mean, I've transported one resource already, and I seem to be able to use it anywhere. I'm just not sure how all the other resources work just yet. So I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to keep doing these little videos. I think this is going to be some sort of mini-series where, studios and developers send me games to do a short little review on, but I have a feeling it's going to be different for each game. You see, I put 10 hours into the Riftbreaker already, and I want to play even more, but I have other videos planned before that. And I assure you, this small video does not do this game justice. I seriously want to put in, 20, 30 hours to beat the campaign and make a massive video on it. And I want to tell you all now, I absolutely plan to do that. Just in time. I have a ridiculous amount of stuff on my plate, both in terms of content and obviously real life stuff I have to do. There's still more to this video, trust me, but for now I just wanted to say that yes, I absolutely recommend the Riftbreaker. I just love this game. I cannot stress that enough. It's just gonna be a while before I make an entire video on beating the whole campaign and everything like that. The next thing I'm building is the orbital scanner. This is what's going to let me go to other sectors of the map. I'll definitely explain all of this again, and hopefully better, when I make a long video on this game. But if I need more research speed, there's actually a couple things I can do. I can either build more research labs, which they do have a limit. some of the more special buildings that give you like more ammo and better gear and stuff like that, you have to either upgrade them after you upgrade your core or upgrade the buildings themselves, which, as you can probably guess, costs a lot of resources. I've also unlocked a scanner. To activate most things in this game, the main button is space. It takes a bit of getting used to because that's like jump in most games, but there's not really jumping in here besides like a damage skill. This geoscanning is actually one of my favorite parts of this game. It's so neat to just run around and scan the ground until you find something cool. The loot goblin in me absolutely loves it. Another slight noob move that you'll see me making every so often is connecting most buildings with energy connectors. Not to mention the fact that I'm clicking them one by one when you can actually hold your mouth to place them optimally. That's very nice. But the best way to place power over super long distances, there's actually a dedicated power pylon for that. I think you can place like as many of these as you want in a single map. At least that's what it feels like, and they seem to have infinite range and, connect all the power together. On top of that, I finally got my first geothermal power plant. This is, well, literally free power, which is super exciting. It also produces mud as a byproduct. Now, in the short time I played, I didn't actually get too much into liquids and stuff like that. I guess I did need water for like the alien research lab a little bit later on, but that was pretty much it. Besides the random attacks of massive waves of enemies that happen every so often, whenever you upgrade your main base, it's not a core. I can't actually remember what it's called, but I keep calling it a core for some reason, so I'll continue to do so. Anyways, whenever you go to upgrade that, naturally more waves of tons of enemies approach your base, because that's kind of like a big progression point. Whenever you upgrade your base, you unlock a ridiculous amount of new research things and obviously higher tier stuff, which is very important. I can't stress this enough. I'm definitely not playing this like the smartest way. You should definitely go to other areas and explore those first instead of like doing all the research at once. But hey, this is how I play strategy/tower defense games like this. Again, this is exactly how I've been playing Mindustry right before I started recording this, so you can probably see the similarities in my gameplay. A very long time later, after getting tons of cool new gear and upgrades and stuff like that, I decided to finally go to another area for once. And it's a good thing that I prepared because I had no clue how crazy this place would be. Alright, I decided to go to a volcanic area. I was like, it can't be that bad, right? But apparently it's pretty bad. The primary issue with this volcanic area is the fact I'm permanently taking damage. Now, it doesn't seem like that because I actually have a upgrade that permanently heals me a tiny bit each second. I also have a couple drones there. One thing is where I stand still, I get crazy good healing. Another one of the drones picks up items for me, which is very nice. As you can see, I can't build here. That's because it's way too hot for that. There are actually special zones that I can build in, but I will not be staying here permanently. Actually, I'm not sure if I can stay here permanently. I wonder if I can make a base like way later on, but for now, I'm just gonna be here for a little bit exploring the place for some new technology. Well, new research, I guess. Either way, there are new creatures which are super cool. In this game, obviously not all of the creatures are the same. Some are super squishy and weak, like these ones that come in hordes, or there are those snails that actually resist some types of damage and require, like explosives to kill. I mean, it's a super cool mechanic because it forces me to actually use a different variety of weapons and stuff like that. Another thing I would definitely touch on in a longer video is all the crazy different lore and story of this game, because it's super neat. For this area, we actually need to scan a bunch of these freezing cold plants. That's quite bizarre. Freezing cold plants in an active volcano? That's definitely not normal. And once we research enough of these, we can actually use their technology to survive for longer in this place. Also, I guess this is the end of that massive rock storm I just had. It was actually just a volcanic eruption that happened to be lobbing heat-seeking rocks onto me. The usual for this game. I mean, trust me, you get used to just everything in the game wanting to kill you and your base. But, I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's extremely fun. This is another long while later, and the second time I actually went to another place. Instead of a temporary trip to an inhospitable area, it's time to actually build an outpost, which is like a sub base. This is what I was talking about earlier, where I can transport resources back to my main base. What's most interesting is that all of your bases seem to share resources. I honestly did not expect that. I really thought I was gonna have to build everything from scratch. But this is very nice. This is like the closest footage I'm going to get to me actually starting. Because, I mean, it's pretty much the same as the very beginning, except for the fact I don't have to mine any resources by hand anymore. Naturally, my goal is to set up resource collection as soon as physically possible, and then power, some power storage, and finally defenses, which is also very important. Of course, one of my favorite things about playing games is actually learning from my mistakes when I do another playthrough or start like a new map and stuff like that. Because now I know I can get away with so much more than before. I can make my defensive line way further away than I initially thought. Like, my main base is just horribly designed. There are buildings packed everywhere around my headquarters, and it's almost impossible to reach it. But here, I'm actually expanding way further than I normally would, because, well, I can. After I finished playing, I was actually thinking for a very long time about how to make better defenses. My primary loadout for defenses throughout this entire playthrough is actually artillery towers and rocket launchers. That's pretty stupid. Later on, I did start using like shotguns and stuff like that. I think shotguns are my favorite for close defense, but I don't know what my middle tier tower would be. The artillery towers are cool and all, but unfortunately they're outranged by most of the super long range enemies. To deal with the super long range enemies, I eventually used rift bomb towers or something like that. Anyways, they can teleport bombs super long range, and they're amazing for taking out long range enemies. They're actually one of my favorite towers. They're so freaking cool. So yeah, I definitely have to map that out next time I play this game to figure out like what is the best and most optimal defense. Obviously, a multi-layered wall is the best so that you have different layers of defense and then, different range and power towers. Also, a big thing I need to improve on is where I actually place the towers. Well, specifically the power connectors. One of my major problems in my defense is actually the power connectors being broken, and since they're all on the same line, think about this for a second. One power connector gets broken like early on, and all of the defenses on that line go down. Obviously not the smartest play. I would need to make like a spider web of power lines or something like that, so that when one breaks, it still has a backup. As we all know though, hindsight is 20/20. I'm only thinking about all this because I've tried other stuff. And even though this is a good defense, it does work. It's definitely not the best. It could be optimized. The funniest thing is that I haven't even mentioned the whole reason I'm in this different map. I'm actually here for cobalt. Yes, the rare resource I can find from like killing enemies and looting stuff in the other map is actually a standard ore in this map. And the same thing will go for other resources later on. You can get a glimpse of it when I'm opening my build menu on the top right. It's that blue rock. There's also plant biomass and alien biomass below that. I don't know if those are used for other things, but they are used to generate power. So that's like an emergency option I'm always saving. Or, you can just build more power generators like I do. There's just so much cool story stuff that I've skipped just because I'm trying to make this video relatively quick. I'll definitely get into more detail in a full run of this game, but there are some insane things that happen, like this awesome meteor. My final recording was actually a freaking acid tornado. Yeah, it just spawned in the middle of my base and started wrecking everything. I mean, it sounds horrible, and it is, but it's pretty fun to just have a giant, acid tornado thrown in to ruin your day, just when you thought everything was going completely fine. Not to mention, in the story, there's also these enemies that can just appear out of nowhere and start attacking your power grid, that come from the ground. They're horrible to deal with, but that's why I started placing turrets all around my power generators. Mostly the geothermal ones. And apparently the story says they're scared of light, so that might be something. But that's for me to worry about next time. I really can't wait until I actually play like the entire campaign of this game because it is just so awesome. I don't think I've really ever promised anything before, but I promise that I will make an entire campaign video on the Riftbreaker at some point. I just have a bunch of stuff I need to do first, and several other runs that are in the queue. Trust me, I've got a lot of cool stuff planned. As you've all seen by now, I absolutely love the Riftbreaker and can't wait to play more. I wanted to give a very special thank you to Tom, Demise Live, and of course, XOR Studios for letting me play the Riftbreaker. Because, by the way, I didn't quite realize it at first, but once I actually loaded up the game, this is like the premium version with all the DLCs. I just never expected to just get this. Thank you guys so freaking much. And another awesome note, XOR Studios is actually the same studio that makes Dyson Sphere Program, which I haven't played the game myself, but I have seen it and it looks just awesome. It's totally up my alley. I've just had so many other things to play. That's literally the problem I was thinking of the entire time I was playing the Riftbreaker. I just wish I had more time to play other games. All of my time is unfortunately spent maintaining my human needs and working on other videos. But of course, thank you all for watching up to this point. I truly appreciate it. And another special thank you to my channel members. All of you guys are awesome. I hope you all enjoyed watching. And this is going to be Enzo from LookIntoGaming, signing out.